Washington Outsider Report on the Coalition Radio. For those newly joining the program, my name is Irina Zuckerman, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Washington Outsider. Today we'll be discussing a topic that may be a little bit foreign to many of our listeners, but no less important. We'll be discussing the political upheaval in Mozambique and the challenges to democracy and the rule of law. With us today is a special guest, Mr. Albino Forquilha. He's the founder and president of the Povo Optimista para o Desenvolvimento de Moçambique Party, which is also known as Podemos for short. He's got a background in sociology from the Atlantic International University in Honolulu, and he's served in the military. He'll be telling us about his party, the events in Mozambique, and the crisis that has become particularly potent in the last few weeks and where we go from here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start with a little bit of a background because most people in the audience may not be familiar with Mozambique, its current politics or the ruling party. Let's start with a bit of a background, who the ruling party is, how they've come to be in power, and what is the general story.
So the ruling party is called Frelimo. Frelimo is the liberation movement which started in 1964 in the north of Mozambique, and after 10 years, we became independent from colonial system from Portugal, and from that movement was founded a political party called Frelimo in 1977. And is the ruling party from that time till now. So is governing the country, and is that which we are also fighting with, because we are the youngest party in Mozambique, called Podemos. We started 2019. We are 5 years old, and we compete the election in 2019. And in 2045 now, which is now.
So what is the ideology of the ruling party, and why is it a problem?
No, the ruling party started as a socialist party, was supported by Soviet Union at the time, and after the unification of of Germany, which also the end of socialism at that time, and generally, and Mozambique also started to change his view, his line, and becoming let's say a liberal economy in the country, and they are still like that till now. But there are now many other movements in Mozambique against the ruling party because the way they are ruling the country is not accepted by everyone. That's why with the opening of the multi-party in Mozambique in 1994, came many other parties, raised many other parties in the country with another views, and yes, are now competing elections, like my own party.
So let's talk about how your party fits in within these other parties, and what made you decide to start a new party as opposed to joining one of the existing opposition parties.
Yes, because yes, we started as a political party. Many of us came from the Frelimo party into the Frelimo party. We worked hard to change inside the Frelimo party, which was not possible. It's very, very difficult, and that's why 5 years ago we said yes, we can also start a new party and introduce our ideology, which is center left ideology, which is like social liberal, and we should also contribute in the country with the other views of how the country should be governed. So in that time, many people came to us, and we created a party. It was not easy to create it because the government were trying to put a barrier on that, but we managed to do that. And from that, we started to mobilize people along the country and to introduce ourselves as political party, and was very, very accepted. And so we said, yes, we are going also to compete the election as everyone. And we managed to do that. And we have many, many young people into the party, and many other which are demonstrating sympathy with, with our party. And we are now a big movement in the country. That's why in this election, we competed strongly with the ruling party in the country, Frelimo.
What has been the impact of Frelimo governance on Mozambique?
Come again, please.
What has been the impact of Frelimo governance on Mozambique? What has been
No,
the social?
Frelimo, we can see it divided into moments, because the first moment, which was a Frelimo, like a movement of all Mozambicans against the colonial system, was covering the majority of the people in Mozambique, and we were really very involved in that. I remember also my parents, my father and my mother were inside, and everyone, because we were looking at as our salvation. We wanted really to put aside the colonial system and to be ourselves as Mozambican, and also to introduce our identity, our culture, our desires, and was seen as a a possibility for a good governance, inclusive government in the country. And from this objective invited many Mozambicans to join the Frelimo party in that time, from 1964, and the war started years 1960, year 64, and till 1974, we ended the war with colonial system, and we won it. And from that point, Frelimo established itself as a Marxist-Leninist party. And that time, we had some division into the party. Some were not agreeing with that. Some wanted to have an election and to introduce that time multi-party system so that everyone could express his sentiment and his view. But was not possible to do that because the linkage that Frelimo had with the Soviet Union at the time couldn't allow a democracy, multi-party democracy in the country. So we had, from that time, I mean, 1975 to 1990s, with a mono party in the country, where only Frelimo party governing the country, and no one could introduce himself as a political party. And because we had a civil war introduced by Renamo movement, which also came from some who were belonging to the Frelimo party, they were not satisfied with the way that the country was led, and they started the war. We had a civil war, also supported at that time by apartheid, by other. And after 16 years, we had to negotiate. The country negotiated with Renamo, and we came to a peace agreement in 1992. And in 1994, we had the first multi-party election in the country. And in that time, we had around 30 parties that was created to give ground the multi-party system and to give ground the election. And this went well. But even so, Frelimo was winning all these elections. Although people say that there was fraud, there was not a fair and free election, but Frelimo is in power till now. And myself, I was also inside, but also fighting inside the Frelimo party in order to change, in order to give the good direction to the party, because I was feeling that some of the objective of the war that Mozambique carried on against colonial system were diverted somehow, and we wanted to put direction while we were inside the party, but was not possible. That's why we mobilized ourselves. where a good number of Frelimo militants, and we said no, we can create another party and mobilize people to our ideology, which as I said, is center left, uh, social democracy, and introduce our objective. We are fighting for social justice and good governance of the country. It is our cause, and many people join us and are really with us now. And yes, so this is the second election that we are competing in 2024, and we won this election. We won this election, but our system is not like yours. That in 24 hours we can have the results. We are now about 40 days, and we are waiting for the result, and it's not there. And there are many tactics and frauds inside. So we are fighting with that.
So let's go back a little bit and I'll get to this point about these elections and what is going on currently. Let's go back and talk about what made it impossible to reform from within. Who exactly is the leadership? How do they manage to hold on to power? And how did they manage for 30 years to evade, with the multi-party system in place, to evade being thrown out of power? What exactly is going on here?
Yeah, the leadership of this ruling party is, as I said, the party is called Frelimo, with Marxist-Leninist ideology in the beginning, and led by Mozambicans. The first one to lead that after the war, after the liberation time, was Samora Machel, who the first president, and was also a strong combatant during the colonial time. And he became the first president of the country. He transformed the country in a popular state, republic, in that time, and he governed the country about 10, 11 years, and had an accident, a plane accident in South Africa in 1986, I think. Yeah, but the way he ruled the country, governed the country, as I said in the beginning, following the Marxist and Leninist politic, was a monopoly party. No one could have another party in the country. I can say that in terms of social justice, in sometime was maybe better than now, because he tried uh, to to share the revenue of the country to everyone. Even I recognize that in that time the country was not so rich in terms of products, because we are not producing so much. But I remember that many people went outside, sent by him to start, because he had a vision on how the country, what were the need of the country in the future. He sent many people to many countries. Like myself, I did my study, and part of my study in German, the first study in German. So, and many other in Cuba and other parties, because he had a vision that those people, when they come back, they will be in condition to give direction the country and to support economically the country. He did well in that time. The unique thing that was bad was at the side of democracy. I mean, democracy in such manner that everyone could also raise his own idea and create his own party. This was prohibited, was not allowed. But in terms of see what the country had and how could be distributed to many Mozambican, I think he did a good thing than now in comparison to today.
So what changed? At what point has it taken the turn for the worst? And what were the factors that contributed to this, worsening of the direction?
I think after he is dead in plane accident, as I said, many people who came into the country because of the process of jumping from socialism to a liberal market, I think many of the people inside the party started to look at themselves to benefit much as possible from what the country has, and not to look at equity distribution of the revenue of the country. I think this is what the major problem. They didn't manage correctly to see that good governance means also fair distribution of what the country has. Good governance means not to politicize the institution that we have. For instance, now all institutions that we have are politicized to in favor of the party, the ruling party. And it's like, even if we say that we are a multi-party system, but they are trying to use the institution to benefit the ruling party, discriminating other political parties. This is the big problem that we have in the country. Even the resources of the country are not correctly benefiting all Mozambicans. We have in terms of resources and geographic position in which we are, and we are a rich country. We have a really good condition for agriculture. We have condition for I can say we have a long beach, and with condition to do many other things. We have a lot of resources, mineral resources. They are there, but few of them who are now in exploration are not really benefiting. The contract that are signed with international institution here, exploring for like gas and other gold and many other things. The percentage that we are giving as a country is not really benefiting ourselves, because is in comparison to those who are coming to invest in our country. We became, for instance, 2%, and all the rest is going to them. And some of our leading some of our members of the government have their own contracts and benefiting more than the state is benefiting. And this is not really putting in our country developing. We are one of the poorest countries in the world. 50 years after our independence, we're one of the poorest countries in the world, although with a lot of resources. And one of the things which is on the top is really to be to barrier the movement of democracy, because they know that if they allow, if they introduce good process, good democratic process, they will be changing. They will be changing. Other party will take place, and they will be doing good things. And they have also, in my point of view, many I think aspect, many dossiers. I mean, many process, hiding process. They afraid that if other one come to power, they will discover all these things, and from good people they will be bad people from today to night. Is the problem I think which is we are facing in Mozambique, impeding the movement, the good movement of democracy in the country. That's why frauds at all election is a bread of every day.
So let's look into this. What you're describing sounds very much like the rise of a kleptocratic oligarch class, kind of what happened in Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union and other former Soviet states. You have these people who are trying to use the infrastructure to self-benefit. And I'm curious, what is the link between? I want to zero in on what you described, that some of these officials are having their own private contracts, and I'm guessing that some of these contracts have to do with the natural resources inside the country and probably some foreign entities. Could you tell us more about this? Who these people are? Who are they getting contracts from? And what natural resources are being exploited here?
I can tell them. I can't tell them by name, because
Mm-hmm,
yes, but I know that those who are leading the country,
mm-hmm,
those who have good influence with country politics, they are benefiting from that. They are
mm-hmm,
benefiting from that. They are not, when they go to sign those contracts, are not looking to their people, in which condition the people are, what people should need, and give this perspective that from these contracts, we need to have a timeline in which we can say, yes, from this point, that we signed the contract, to that one, we need to have these and these and these, because
Sure.
we need to manage correctly the fund we get from them, but in benefit of our people, not
Sure.
in benefit of some people who are in the government, which are took the money and deposit them outside. When they are sick, they go to hospital outside. When they are kids, they go to study abroad and all those
Mm-hmm.
things, because are not trusting themselves, the institution that they constructed along these 50 years. This is the situation. We have hospital without medical medicines. We have young people who finish their university. They are not employed because the country is disinvested. There are no investment coming into the country. We are always in armed conflict and so on. I think we can't say other thing than say that this is a bad government. If we are not really
Mm-hmm.
governing correct our country, then we have those problems. There is a lot, a big um, how should I say, um, um, differences, social difference. If we have many rich people and many, let them say this: we have a few which are very rich people. Those who are really in touch with the politic, in touch with the politic in terms of a ruling party. But we have the majority of people that are going always down. Our roads are really you can't believe. So I think this is a big problem that we have, which means that what we are gaining as revenue of the country, resource and on, are not used correctly for the development of the country. And this is one of the causes that took us to create our political party, which call it Podemos. Podemos, which means in Portuguese that we can, like some of you says.
Exactly. So I wanted to talk about, you just mentioned that there's a constant state of armed conflict. Who exactly is challenging security to Mozambique, and how is the government handling it at the moment?
I think we have in the north of the country terrorist attack since 2017
Mm-hmm.
till now, and we have many refugees, many people who died along this term. This time, we do have we had in the past, in the last 3 years, participation of other governments of the region like South Africa, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Angola, Tanzania, and other in support of the government of Mozambique to combat terrorism
Mm-hmm.
in our country. Now they went back. We still have here a Rwandan military supporting our army to fight terrorism in the country. But my point of view is that we created, I think, the ruling part, which is ruling the country in the last 50 years, 49 years, create so much condition to permit to so much bad condition in terms of governing the people. They didn't look at the right, the liberty of the people in terms of civil rights,
Mm-hmm.
political rights, economic rights, including social anthropological rights, which was not respected. And this, in my point of view, was also the ground created for a terroristic attack in our country, because there are spaces in the country, territories of the country, which are living like abandoned. There is no state presence there. The
Mm-hmm.
state is not present there.
And what
They,
what territories are those? Can you describe it for the audience because they may not be familiar with the geography and demographics of Mozambique?
in terms of demography, we are not so much. We are growing, yes, rapidly. We are about 31 millions of people now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, located in Southern East Africa. I think many people should know where we are. Bordering South Africa, bordering Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
No, even even more Eswatini, and yeah, other countries surrounding us. So it's where we are located. We are benefiting to be along the coast, yes,
Mhm.
and in terms of geography, as I said, is a very good location for strategic development, and also yes, because we are in touch with the sea, and is what we many people are also connected to our sea, because which are in interior of us. They want to also to benefit from to transport their goods, and these all things benefit Mozambique if we are we rule the country correctly. We rule our country correctly. So I think if we should really guide ourselves and learn from other countries which are really good in terms of good governance. I mean, social justice. If we could really think on on our 32 millions of people as government, thinking of those people, looking of on conditions that we have in terms of geography, in terms of mineral resource, and all those things. Even the capacity of people that we have, prepared people, training people, we should develop this country in 10, 15 years. We should change our position in the world as poorest country to jump to our stage, because conditions are there. We need only people who can really think on this country, to put in place the participation of everyone, to decentralize. I could even say many things, so that everyone can be a dynamic instrument of development of the country, but also to see what the local content are, where everyone is, because in my country, I see that every corner there is something that the people can do to develop this country. But they need to have good public policy that allow them, they give them liberty to do that. And we are not, the ruling party is not doing much on this direction. That's why what we see is always complaining. People have not food. They can't have can't be employed. They cannot develop themselves, because the policy of the country now, many people that we have in security areas, for instance, are there to control people, not really to give them liberty to do what they should do as a country of right, in the country of democracy.
So, in the last few weeks, we have seen a lot of civil unrest and upheaval, and there's been an incident that Alberto Rui told me about um the attacks on Podemos officials, on Podemos representatives. There's been a targeted killing of two of them. Can you tell us about what's going on, and why there is this violent
Yeah,
response?
yeah, yes. Thank you for that. Since the election on the 19th October last, we we started to protest, because the result that was announced by authority, by those institutions which are dealing with this process, were not corresponding, or are not corresponding with the result that everyone of us who were sitting on the pool, on the table of vote, get from them. Because the system in Mozambique is like that. When the election goes, in the day of election, every competing political party has the right to send his own people to sit on the place of vote, and to fiscalize, or say to supervise the process, to claim everything that is necessary to claim when things are not going well. We have this right. But at the end, when the votes are counted, at the end, everyone sitting there is giving a sheet, like a certificate of result that we got in that table. And this is organized like this in all the other countries. And our people came back to our office with those certificates. And we did a counting, parallel counting with the authority. We did also our parallel counting. because we have there, I say, from that point, was possible to know from ourselves that we won this election because we had this certificate and give us a condition to do our parallel counting. And this process, from this counting process, we came to the position of conclude that we won the election. We won the election. Our candidate to the presidency got 45. I mean, yes, is 55%, and the political party, which is Podem, got 138 seats in the parliament. Is that what we have? And we have evidence on that. But when the District Commission of Election of Mozambique started to do intermediary announcement of the result, those numbers would change it. So we started from there to protest, to say that no, there was a fraud, because the evidence we have are not corresponding with the result that were announced by the authority. So we started to do the proof, and the response that we have, doing pacific protest without armed people, without nothing, but the police came there with lacrimogenic gas and shooting with the real bullets to us, and many of our militants, many of our people were injured, were died, and some of them are in main hospital. I did even visit some hospital in Maputo. I did also visit to some families in those villages, and we have till now more than 90 people died in these 20 days of protesting. But the most frustrating thing is that along this process of dying or killing people, we had never seen the president of the country to come and to vigorously on this and to condemn the police by because of doing this. They were quiet, giving the perception in the country that those policies are allowed. Those law enforcement are allowed to kill people. So we started to feel that we are alone. It means that we are protesting because of fraud. It means that the police were also at the side of those who committed that fraud, because we are killing people without nothing, without to complain. So well, it's very, very bad. So we started to send information to many human rights organizations in the world, in the region, to see if they could help us. Even our candidate, he fled from the country, is not here because he's not safe. Even myself, I was informed many times to flee the country, to leave the country, because I can be killed also anytime. But I'm still here. I went to the police. I notified them. I say that I got information that anytime I can be killed. They said, no, we are not connected with that, and I'm still here. But as I said, I'm also not safe. But I need to be here, to be in touch with my people, and also to respond to everything that comes connected to my party. Because if I go away, it will be very, very complicated to follow every process that is running in Mozambique, connected to my party.
Are there any election observers taking part in the election, like international election observers?
Yes, we had many international observers in the country. I had a conversation with the European Union team, Commonwealth team, SADC team, African Union team. They were here. We had many observers, a national observer and also international observer. I noticed that even the European Union said clearly in their two reports, in their two positions, that the election were really had a lot of irregularities and were not so clearly fair. They say that. I'm still always in contact with those observers, because are still in the country, and
Why
We
does
had
Mhm.
observers, international observers. No, normally we receive also here some of from United States, but I don't remember if we had them this time in Mozambique.
Why do you think there hasn't been a more clear international outcry based on these reports when there's if there's overwhelming evidence of fraud? Do you think
Come again, please?
Why do you think there wasn't much more of an international reaction to allegations of fraud? Do you think some of the European countries are benefiting from the contracts with some of these officials?
Yes, that topic is it's correct because we know one of the way that the ruling party Mozambique is trying to do to maintain itself in power is also to sell the resource of the country to some of those states so that they can shut their mouth to talk exactly when things are not going well. We know that, but at this time we are very satisfied because the European Union said clearly that those elections were not fair,
Mhm.
and they are severe contract with us. But at a regional level, I mean, in the SADC country, always we get responses which are not at the side of the people because those governments, the most governments surrounding Mozambique are like a club. Many
Mhm.
of them were also from the liberation movement or
Sure.
are connected to them or came from them. So they are friends to the Frelimo party in this country, and they are also shaking their hands in terms of pushing to maintain their political power, their political parties in power. That's why we expect very less from those countries from the region, like in the southern Africa region, for instance. With the exception of Botswana, for instance, we know that the Botswana is really doing good in terms of democracy and
Mhm.
inclusion. We have now, I can mention even Zambia is doing also good. Malawi is trying to do good. Yes, even in terms of state, South Africa is also pushing. But South Africa, in terms of people who are really leading the country, are very connected to some people also leading Mozambique. This is one of the problems. So it's still a big challenge to have a region like SADC, to have African Union really to push when some of those things happen in their member states, diverting the the content of democracy, for instance, coming with law enforcement. They can't, they are not doing, and that's why people are not really expecting much from them. They are not trusted so much by the people. That's why if you can see in the last year, in the last 10 years, we had many problems of government changing in Africa. We had many governments which or many groups which came in power with unconstitutional forms, unconstitutional manner. Because of that, if we could have, for instance, surrounding states pushing really and condemning those who are really going in contradiction, which are ruling their country in contradiction with the principle of democracy, I think we should have rapidly many of those people which are leading the country proceeding with fair, free, and credible elections in their country.
Is there, you mentioned the connections between the ruling party and some of the other states. Is there a connection with the ANC in South Africa, for instance?
Yeah, Frelimo party is is a good friend of ANC. ANC, in the time of fighting, some of them they came to Mozambique to seek refugee. They had support from Mozambique, but let me say that support was a support from people to people,
Mhm.
not from party to party today is. But there is a historical friendship between those political parties. Although I know, I recognize that the way that leaders of South Africa are leading their country, are ruling their country, is much, much better than Mozambicans are doing. South Africa, the democracy, for instance, South Africa is on top. I can say is on top because there are good syndicates um, who really fight when things are not good. They are there, and even election they have. To my point of view, I was there in the time of election. Was really good things. In 24 hours, they started to counting vote, and we didn't see people killing each other because of election and photos. But Mozambique never learned from this position because Mozambique knows if they follow, or I mean, the government, the current government of Mozambique, with Frelimo, or supported by Frelimo, if they do correct things in terms of fair and free election with the transparency, they're going to lose the election. They know they're going to lose the election, and they don't want to lose because they are still holding many contracts of business. They are there really for their business, and they don't want to lose that. And they know also that if other government come in power, it will discover a lot of bad things that they did along the past for 9 years. So I think there is the big problem. We do have some progress in terms of democracy in the region. From my point of view, in the country that I mentioned here, like Botswana, like even Zambia, Malawi, a little bit, but we still have also challenge of many other which are resisting to be democratic and resisting to share, let me say, to share even power like inclusive governance. They are resisting to proceed with the good manners of governance, good governance. We still have a lot of those problems. Also, some progress.
Has there been a push to get some of the officials designated under the Global Magnitsky Accountability Act, which is, it's a US initiative, but it's also been adopted in several other Western countries. Essentially, it's sanctions against officials on the basis of two factors. One, corruption. So some of these oligarchs who've been selling off the resources through private direction could be eligible for that if there's evidence of their activity. And second, attacks on human rights defenders. So anyone who was involved in human rights defense and who suffered or was wounded or killed as a result of these political activities, any officials who were involved in that, and not just officials, but enforcers, law enforcement, military, or whoever was involved, they could also be designated and sanctioned. Which means travel bans, and it also means freezing their accounts in Western banking systems.
Yeah. We, as you know, my country has a good connection to United States of America too, and we had possibility of be selected 2 times for a Millennium Challenge account, for instance, which is a funding with some conditions. One of these conditions is really human rights and democracy and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder how it went to the point that Mozambique could be selected. I doubt. The first time was selected, and the fund was used in Mozambique with some problems, and didn't finish well. But after some years, we competed once again, and we was selected. There is our question sometimes. If Mozambique is really in good line of democracy, we shouldn't have the situation that I'm explaining here of fraud every election.
Mm-hmm.
Every election. If Mozambique were good in human rights, we shouldn't have policemen here who shoot every day those who are protesting for their own rights. And there are many things that astonish us. So we are admired. We don't know exactly uh, which condition really United States of America is really how should I say this? I don't know how United States can say can put Mozambique in the ground of those who are really following steps of democracy process, democratic process when things are running like this in Mozambique. For those who are processing for the right are killed by official of the country, for instance, and no one is condemning that. No one is really take responsibility for those who are dying and so on. And we say yes, Mozambique is in a good way. I'm not happy with that because these condition, these funding should also be like a way of supervising the process in the country. We are giving you money, you use it for your development, but the point 1, 2, 3 must be followed restrictly so that we can continue to work with you. But I think it's not doing United States of America to Mozambique. I think also because of some companies that the United States of America has in Mozambique, they are also gaining space in terms of business, and this is frozen my point of view, the supervision that they should do to this process in our country. Because my country, if we look to the side of democracy, human rights, and so on, even democracy, who says of democracy is telling of good governance. They shouldn't win these funds.
What companies, what sectors are the American companies benefiting from the most? Is it energy? Is it natural resources, or is it something else?
I remember that we had a big company who that tried here to explore gas, which is energy. And after a time, I think they sold shares with the other company for friends. It's Total Energy, things like that. And there are other companies that I can't here mention directly, which
Mm-hmm.
also United States benefit. But I know exactly that there are some companies from United States here also uh, um, uh, connected to big business in the country, in the area of energy, mineral resources, and so on.
There's
But the embassy here is still good. It's still good. The embassy here is also sometimes giving good position in terms of condemning some of those things. If democracy failed, for instance, they yes, but they have got always limit because they cannot interfere in the atmosphere yes, the situation of Mozambique, because they have also as an embassy ambassador a limit.
there's been also an involvement of Total Energies with a massacre at Cabo Delgado that's been essentially there's a new European law that would require Total to compensate the victims of that massacre, where villagers were basically accused of being Islamist insurgents, and they were raped and killed by a Mozambique military unit in 2021. What has been the role of Total since then?
Once again, please let me understand you well.
The French energy company Total,
Yeah.
they were implicated in a human rights abuse case that basically requires them to compensate the victims starting 2027. They've had a major presence in Mozambique, and there was a massacre that they were tied to in Cabo Delgado in 2021. Since that time, what has been the role of Total in the country?
I'm not really informed on that. I know that we had a massacre in Hitashi in district, I think, of Moeda in Cabo Delgado,
Mm-hmm.
but that one was from the terrorists to a village in that
Sure.
country that where was at one time about more than 40 people, 50 people was killed.
Mm-hmm.
I know on that, but was this one was giving to was considered a terroristic attack to the population, not directed to the total company, as far as I know. Um, yeah, I think the whole implication, whole problem that Total Energy has in Cabo Delgado is related to the benefit of the local people
Mm-hmm.
to what they are doing. Because if a big company runs like there and exploring some resources in the country, it's also the basic security that they can create is also to respect those people surrounding the company so that they can also feel that they are part of the process. They are also benefiting from some from some services that the company needs and so on. And we had information that some of services the Total wants or needs are coming from very far from the local area. We know also that some of the people locally are not prepared to respond the demand of such a kind of big companies. But it's always important, connected also to the government, the local government, to see how the local people can feel as part of the company, benefiting from that company, because the 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 line, let me say, the circle of security in basic words coming also from those people. Because if the people feel that they are respected, they are also part of the process of productive process and so on. They will also protect the company. They will not turn their force or do things against the company that they benefit from. If not, then we have problems. Those recommendations was given to many non-government organizations in that time and even this time to have a total company also connected with the surrounding people, not also taking benefit, but leaving the people in the poor as poor.
What do you think is next in terms of, given this chaos, given this political upheaval, and given the previous security problems that you mentioned, isn't there a heightened likelihood of potential additional insurgencies and attacks, given that there is already this chaotic situation? We are seeing that in several African countries where there's been issues with weak governance, with the post-colonial upheavals, and with the corruption, major insurgencies have destabilized these countries all over West Africa, for instance. We're seeing that sort of pattern. Is Mozambique in danger of this type of potential takeover?
Yeah, maybe yes. But what I see, if we try to study a little bit the situation in Cabo Delgado province in the north, it recommend us that maybe we should do more locally
Mm-hmm.
in terms of understanding what are the causes driving, fueling the terrorist attack in the country. Because I remember that when the foreign forces came to support the armed force in Mozambique to combat terrorism, they succeeded in terms of giving security to the borders surrounding that area. And we don't know, we didn't have information that terrorist attack or those attackers are coming from outside into the country,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the people who are turned them in terrorists are inside Mozambique, are in our communities. And I think from that point, we should also think, introduce, or try to understand what we did wrong along this time, all this time, that changed the mindset, or I mean, the way of thinking of our youth, of our kids, to turn them into terrorism. I think there, if we think correctly in this point, we will also see it as adults as part of the problem, as part of the problem. And if you will consider that situation, we will understand that those young people who are going to join terrorist attack are coming from our families, are coming from our communities, are coming from our religion group, and so on. And from there, we should also introduce the other line of trying to solve the problem, not only with military attacks, but also to try to understand what really is wrong, what really is bad, why families are sending their kids, their young people, to be part of terrorist attacks. From there, if we can manage it correctly, we can also introduce other line of trying not to look from those who are outside, but trying locally to negotiate with the people, to understand really the problem. Because as we said, people are not coming from other cultures to come into Mozambique, are our people. We know them, we are living with them. They study in many other primary, secondary school locally, but now are commanders of those terrorist attacks. We should really try to talk with the people, to negotiate with the people. We do have their traditional leaders, other religious leaders, and many other. We can try to understand with them what are the best methods to solve the problem. What is the problem really? And what we can introduce to try to solve, to combat the process, but not combating by arms, by guns, by fire, but to try to understand those people and to talk with them, because I'm Mozambican like everyone in the country. If we do this, because we are doing, we have a military line, and at the same time have this line, which says, for instance, yes, we talk to you. If you come to us, we explain your problem, and we can understand this, and we can solve this without military means. I think this should also help a lot. Because, as I said in the beginning, I think the violation of human rights in that area, which generally in Mozambique, the violation of civil rights, of political rights, of cultural rights, and including social anthropological rights, I think is the reason why we have this terrorist attack spreading in that area. It's my point of view, because people are not feel as part of that territory in terms of benefiting from the state. People are not feeling that they are also supported by their own state. If they start to do something, someone comes and stop them and persecute them. All those things are really inside this big basket of problem. And we should also go into it and select everything and see what can be really solved by military means and what can be solved by look each other face to face and try to come up with a solution and intervene socially, intervene economically in terms of respecting the rights. I think this should also solve. As I said, we don't have people coming from outside and come to attack us. We don't have helicopters coming from elsewhere come to bombard in that area. Are people which was born there, living there, and we should also look at us and say what went wrong along this time, so that our children and our kids should turn themselves and to attack other people in that. I think there we will find that we as governors, we did wrong somewhere. We didn't educate correctly our young people to support their own country, to respect the life of their own people, where they went, in which school they went to learn how to attack their own mothers, their own fathers. Because we are the ones who are leading the country, who are governing the country. We should have means to support those people, to give them I think how to say this, to give them ground of their behaviors, which should be should be the government, and we didn't do that. I think there is the, but I think also the government don't want to go deeper in this issue because they will be seen as those who are guilt, those who failed to govern correctly their people. That's why if they say we are attacked by terrorists and so on, they receive urgently international support, international support. But and doing so, they are not interested in understanding deeply the problem and try to solve it.
So in that respect, that takes me to the next question, and it's a two-part question to wrap up what we've been discussing. First of all, what kind of support are you looking for from the international community at this time in terms of dealing with this immediate election fraud and this violence from the government, this deadly violence? And the second part, US has a new administration coming in. The incoming administration is very much looks to be focusing on internal matters and to settle major international crises, but they're also concerned about security, they're also concerned about economy and opportunities. How would you present your case, and why would you how would you argue that Mozambique's issues should be a priority for the new administration, and how should they be handled in a way that aligns with the current direction of the US government?
Thank you. The first question you made, the support that we should look at for is that yeah, the international arena, for instance, international support of Mozambique people abroad, like United States of America, should really appeal the government of Mozambique to observe the the fair election, should observe that the our petition, the claim that we did, are also the document that we sent to those authorities should be really observed careful and in a transparent manner, which means that we are waiting to see the government of Mozambique, I mean the constitutional court, the constitutional council, which is dealing with the last step of electoral process, to invite, because we send there, not Podemos party only, but other party also send their evidence, which are we should see, we would like to see the constitutional court inviting representative of those competing political parties, those who compete in this election. International and national observers were also part of the process, were in Mozambique invited by the government to observe the election, but also journalists. Those three teams are allowed by law in Mozambique, so that they could also stand aside with the team of the Constitutional Council and to confront those evidence that we send there, so that, that we can come up with a validation of election which can be seen as being transparent, because other people were also seeing and processing, seeing step by step what they done to come up with those results. Is that the government of Mozambique is refusing to do, because they know that if they do that in a correct manner, the Frelimo party, which is in power, will lose the election. That's the problem. So if the outside governments, which are friends to Mozambique, they have representatives in the country, can also appeal Mozambique to do that in a transparent manner, it will help a lot. It will help a lot. If also international, for instance, we are looking now, we don't know who can help us. I was talking with some organization in Mozambique. We would like to publicize the evidence we have. because we send them to the Constitutional Council, but we don't have technical capacity to publicize them. It's about 300 300 kilos of paper that we have of evidence we collected. We would like to have assistance because we want these evidence to be publicized so that the people can also judge, can also start to discuss the process and from the evidence that we have. This will hinder, for instance, validation of fraud of results which are not really fair and credible in the country. These are the 2 points that I would like to ask for assistance if some organization can really be able to do that.
Mhm.
And in connection with the last question you made, I still have it. The last question you made was
About U.S. government and the new administration coming in.
yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was myself. I tried to congratulate United States for a free, I think, fair election hold there, where Mr. Trump won the election, and I know his administration from the last time he were in the cabinet, and yeah, the first thing that we can do is to congratulate him. I know that he is much oriented to internal results and not much to outside. Yeah, but I think that the United States embassy in Mozambique will remain, which means that even if we cannot have a good action or let me say a some specific and big action outside the United States, but I think the connection in the relation with Mozambique will remain. And to say that everything that Mr. Trump can see in terms of support democracy in the country, because we want also to have election like United States do. For instance, to have election today in 45, 24, 48 hours, we can count and we check hand each other and say, yes, you won, I congratulate you. And I think we want also to do that. And if you can help us in some situation to support democracy strongly, because we need to change the environment in which we are living now, of institutions which are there connected and captured by a political regime, by a political party like Frelimo. We want to change it. And doesn't mean that doing this, some business that the United States have with Mozambique will fail. No, we will continue to work together and to develop a system of win-win, not only win one side and another, not. So we would like to continue to work with the Trump administration as anyone which can come in power in the United States of America in this basis of win-win situation, and also see that Mozambique is still very, very down there in terms of development in many areas, and see how can we cooperate, how the United States can support Mozambique in terms of developing the country, developing the human capacities and so on.
I think in the end, it's an advantage to the U.S. to have relations with countries that are prosperous, that are democratic, that have good infrastructure and good institutions that can support business. And I think U.S. will benefit from being able to do business more freely in a country with those institutions which currently are not available. Currently, you just have very basic deals for raw materials, not major development. I think the Trump administration would see Mozambique as a strategic asset for U.S. economy and for U.S. business in the future. if it has a fair political system and a free political system. I think it's just better for business. Um, Even in those
Of course,
very
of course, of
practical
course, of course.
terms.
I do also think so. I do also think so. In the position we are, if we can be really a democratic country with a dynamic in terms of seeing the vision of development, United States can benefit from us, and we also can benefit from United States of America.
Thank you so much for this insightful interview, and I'm so terribly sorry about everything that is going on and that you're going through. I hope you stay safe. And I really hope that hopefully this public discussion will help raise awareness both in the US and internationally about these important issues. I think there's, because of US elections, a lot of attention has been diverted from other important matters. But I think now that that is over, I'm hoping that people will start hearing and watching closely what's going on, because what you described is completely unacceptable. It's absolutely terrible, and I think it shows the weakness of the regime that is forced to resort to violence because it cannot defend itself, because it has lost popularity with the people and has absolutely nothing to offer to most of the country. And I think hopefully the US and others will see it the same way, and they will put political pressure to put an end to this unacceptable lawless course of action. And
Indeed, indeed.
thank you so much to everyone who joined us. We will be back next week at 9 p.m. Tuesday night, the Washington Outsider Report on the Coalition Radio. And with us today, as a reminder, was Mr. Albino Forquilha, the founder and president of the Podemos Party in Mozambique, and hopefully one of the future political leaders, or at least advisors
Of course,
to the
of course.
country in a much better future for Mozambique, for the region, and for the international cooperation as well. Thank you for watching us, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mar. It was nice to be here.